welcome back to our channel. So today Amy and I are sitting down to film for you a video all about healthy meal planning and how to sort of design a week of balanced meals. So this is kind of in response to some of the really common questions we get about how to stay consistent with healthy eating and paleo, and how to create a really healthy and balanced week when it comes to specifically proteins. So we're going to dive into that with a few tips.
But before we get started with this video, we wanted to make a quick announcement. For those of you who have been following on Instagram, you might have already noticed that we have been working on a paleo lunch ebook. So that recipe ebook will be coming out in about a week's time. So all of the recipes inside this ebook are of course paleo, gluten-free and dairy-free, and all healthy.
So we had a lot of fun making this recipe ebook, of course, developing and testing all the recipes for you guys to make sure they're both really easy to make, but they taste great as well.
And it kind of combines like meal prep ideas with things that you can take on the go, specifically for lunches. So we know that lunch can be another kind of difficult one if you're working especially.
Yeah, so breakfast and lunch we find can be the sort of tricky ones for people, and we do already have a breakfast ebook if you haven't heard of it. It's called Rise and Shine, and we link it in our description below. But yeah, so that recipe book will be out in about a week's time, and we want to share with you guys, our YouTube viewers, one of our best recipes from that ebook. So we are putting it to the vote right now. We're going to be sharing one of these 3 recipes. So number 1, we have our paleo macro bowl. So this is a completely macronutrient balanced bowl of goodness for lunch. And then second, we have the creamy chicken salad, which everyone loved on our Instagram. So if you want that, vote for that. And we also have the low carb nori wraps.
So let us know in the comment section below which recipe you'd like to see here on this channel. Otherwise, if you want to receive some updates about when that ebook comes out, you can sign up on our mailing list. So just jump on over to our website and you'll see the sign up box right there, and we'll let you know when it comes out.
So that's all for now on the ebook, but we're going to jump into this video.
So our first tip for eating healthy all week is to decide what you're going to eat and write it all down. So whether you have a specific fitness goal in mind or you're just trying to eat healthier throughout the week, it's really helpful to actually have a really clear idea of what you're going to be eating throughout the week. So not just kind of making it up as you go along.
Yeah, because even when you have the best of intentions, things happen throughout the week that you don't account for, and before you know it, you've got a situation on your hands where you're not really sure what you're going to eat and you have to sort of run out last minute and get some stuff.
Or you waste everything in your fridge. You buy a whole fridge full of stuff and then you kind of have no plan for how you're going to use it.
So the way I personally like to do it is I have a little whiteboard calendar and I write down all of the meals for the week, and I usually do this on a Sunday. I plan for lunches and dinners. I generally have a similar breakfast every day, or I just sort of freestyle it between a number of key ingredients for breakfast, but I do write down my lunches and dinners. But if you don't use a whiteboard, you could also use a journal or a diary to write it all down when you have some time, but it really makes a huge difference.
Pen and paper is where the magic happens. Specifically, we also wanted to get into how we kind of put together balanced meals throughout the week. So one of the questions that we get asked really often is, how often throughout the week should I eat like red meat or white meat? Kind of just in general, how do we kind of structure proteins?
Yeah, and I think before we get into the nitty-gritty of what we consider to be a balanced sort of meal plan throughout the week, I would note that if you follow our channel, you'll already know this, but we do follow a paleo template of eating. So this is more for people who are interested in paleo diet. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, obviously these tips are probably not going to be suitable for you, because we're going to talk a bit about proteins in particular.
Yeah, so number 1, I think the most often asked one would be red meat. So how many times a week do we eat red meat? We would say about 3 to 4 times throughout the week, generally in dinners. And things like that. Maybe you'll have it like the next day if you have leftovers. But yeah, generally 3 to 4 times during the week. We know that red meat is a really great source of iron, zinc, B12 as well, and a number of different minerals.
And when it comes to picking your red meat, we say this all the time, but I'll say it again, it really comes back to the quality of the meat. So there is a lot of fear around red meat, is it healthy or is it unhealthy? And it comes back to, is it grass-fed, is it ethically raised, and what cut you're also going for. So we like to stress not always focusing on those muscle meats, so fattier cuts of meat, and also your kind of stewing meats are excellent. So
a bit more gelatinous cuts, have kind of a different amino acid profile that can be more healthful.
Yeah. So moving on with proteins, the other one we get asked about is white meat, so things like chicken, turkey and pork. Now we don't eat a great deal of pork, but we do eat chicken a couple of times a week, so for dinners that might be 1 to 2 times a week. There are a lot of great nutrients in chicken, turkey and pork. However, we don't prioritize it simply because we find that they are not as nutrient dense as our red meats and organ meats and shellfish.
And I do also find that it's a little bit more difficult to find ethically raised like chicken and things like that. Depending on where you're from, of course, it's going to be different, but sometimes they can be a little bit more tricky.
Yeah.
So next we wanted to talk about fish. So our oily fish we're eating about 3 times a week, and more is actually kind of better. So we know that oily fish is really rich in those anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids, which are really beneficial for our cognition and for fighting inflammation in the body. And when we're talking about oily fish, we are talking about things like salmon, mackerel, and our sardines.
So oftentimes we like to do fish for lunches. Here in Australia, it can be challenging to find wild-caught salmon, so we often do the skin-on wild-caught salmon in a can because you can find it quite easily in a canned form. But yeah, definitely getting in some oily fish is really, really great. So finally, for proteins, the kind of tricky one that a lot of you guys and we have struggled with as well is organ meats. So we would say try your best to plan 1 to 2 meals per week that include organ meats, because they are so full of nutrition. So we know liver, for example, just outperforms pretty much any food in terms of its nutrient density.
It's a real superfood, so like step aside kale, we've got liver over here.
Yeah, because meanwhile everyone is getting excited about vegetables, which are excellent as well, and we're going to talk about greens in a minute. But in terms of bioavailability, just how well and how quickly our body can absorb nutrients, liver is just on a completely different playing field. So if you're new to eating things like liver, chicken liver is great. It doesn't have a really strong flavor, and you can either do it with onions and garlic, or you could do it crumbed, or you could even turn it into a little chicken liver pate.
Yeah, we actually have that recipe here on the channel. So now that we've kind of covered off on the proteins, we wanted to talk about our greens and our vegetables. So throughout the week, we really make these kind of the foundation of our entire diet. So we have greens at pretty much every meal of the day, and that includes breakfast.
I had like a big thing of zucchini and kale. I had something else as well. I had a lot of herbs with my eggs as well.
And when it comes to vegetables, we also want to be looking at all the different kinds of vegetables that we can be including. So number one, we want to be including our leafy greens, so all of our kind of salad greens, which are really rich in folate. And then we have our cruciferous vegetables, which are excellent for detoxifying.
Yeah, so those are our broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprout. I think those are the main ones.
Yeah.
So we try and get as much cruciferous veggies in throughout the week as we can, enough variety of those.
So all of those kind of fall under the non-starchy vegetables, which we kind of make the base of our diet.
And the sulfurous ones as well, the onion and garlic.
And then on top of that we have our starches. So starches are a little bit different. So when we say starches, we mean like our sweet potato, our white potato if you eat those. And then even things like pumpkin,
anything
beetroot,
under the ground, basically, those sort of root vegetables are all more starchy.
And you really want to eat those based on, you know, what your goals are and how active you are as well. So generally our carb intake increases as we become more active. So, you know, if you're doing a lot of activity, you might be including starches with every meal, or if you're a little bit on the lower side of activity, you might bring that down a bit to maybe 1 to 2 meals.
Yeah, and you can also sort of plan your week around when you know you're going to be exercising. If you know, say, if you do a class that's quite intense on a Thursday night, you'll know that you want to have a more carbohydrate dense meal after that.
And I think you can kind of figure it out just based on how your body feels as well, so really noticing how you respond to that carbohydrate load and then seeing where you feel good.
And so the last two categories we'll talk about is falling kind of under snacks actually, so our fruit and nuts and seeds, things like that. So we would generally plan to have around 1 to 2 pieces of fruit each day, and for snacks we like to have things like our activated almonds, Brazil nuts,
macadamias,
don't forget. So that I hope gives you a little bit of a snapshot of sort of how we plan out our week, and really it's about trying to get as much variety when it comes to our vegetables and fruits and everything, because it really comes down to having that diversity in the diet. It's a great way to just make sure that you're getting everything that your body needs to thrive and feel great. And it can be easy to get stuck in a rut with like the same foods. So it's good to sort of actually think, okay, have I hit everything? As well as I can.
You can get really bored eating the same thing every day.
So that was a bit of a long one, but just to recap, tip number 1 was all about planning what you're going to have for the week and write it all down. So for our second tip, it's really just about taking that list of all the things you're going to make during the week and turning that into an ingredients shopping list. So it sounds really simple, but when you do it this way and you know exactly what you are going to eat and what ingredients you need, it makes shopping so much easier and you're so much less tempted to pick up different things that are really not inside your plan.
And you end up spending less. So when you go in without a plan, you generally end up picking lots of odd things that perhaps you don't really need.
Or that, as Amy said before, just go bad in the fridge because you didn't have a plan for those herbs or that nice kale that you bought, and you kind of forget about it.
Our other tips when you do go shopping is to make sure that you are shopping the perimeter of the supermarket and trying to pick the highest quality food that you can afford, really. So making sure that you're going around the outside of the supermarket means that you're really just hitting up the produce section and then the meats. We only really duck into the middle part every now and then to pick up like odd bits and pieces like coconut oil or coconut cream.
And we would advise, even if you can, try to steer clear of like the health food aisle, because there are so many sort of gluten-free products that could be tempting that are just really sugary, but if you go up and down there you could want to try, you know, different things.
Because I don't know, like for us at least, well, I don't know about you, I'm not tempted by any of the other things. It's mostly the only things that can maybe tempt me are in that like health food aisle with like the fake health foods. Because I'm like, oh, I could maybe, but you know, we know that they're really just all bad for us anyway.
So go into the supermarket with a solid game plan and save yourself some money and make sure you're buying things that you're really going to eat.
So our third tip for eating healthy all week is to dedicate a time and a day for prepping your meals. So this is particularly one that applies if you are doing like a weekly meal prep. So particularly if you are working full-time, meal prepping your lunches can be super handy for having all of your meals ready to go throughout the week. So really carving out some time on a Sunday, usually being the best day, can be helpful. So that might be a few hours out of your afternoon just dedicated to getting all of those meals ready and in the fridge ready to go.
But if you're not meal prepping and you're doing a fresh meal every day, which we actually recommend because fresh is best if you have the time, make sure that you have all the things sort of ready to go and you've got a plan around, you know, how much time you have in the morning to dedicate to making your lunch and things like that.
And in our recipe ebook, this is something that we actually really wanted to provide for people. So there's a lot of options around meal prepping and also some on-the-go sort of salads and fresh options that you can make on the day. We tried to make sure that they're all really quick to put together so that you're not spending too much time in the morning fussing about with your meals.
And a lot of these could be great for dinner as well. So we know a lot of people also prep for dinner, depending on whether they work shift work or they work late and they just want something good to go. So we've got options for every kind of time period. So our fourth and final tip for eating healthy all week is simply to stick with it. So once you have your plan, you've got your ingredients, it's really just a matter of following through, and there's really no secret sauce. But we do have a couple of tips if you're feeling a little bit bored. The first one is if you are finding it difficult to stick with the plan, if you're finding it a little bit monotonous or boring, it's probably because you haven't got enough variety there, or you've had the same meals over and over and you're just not excited about it anymore. So in that case, we would really recommend just changing it up a bit, either trying some new vegetables or some new recipes. And it can really only be one new recipe in the week makes you feel more sort of reinvigorated about eating healthy. Yeah, otherwise it gets a little bit boring.
Get a bit stuck in a rut eating the same thing every single day, and then you wonder why you're like craving what somebody else is eating or getting tempted by other people when they ask you to come and eat out with them. So another little tip to make your meals more exciting is to focus on nutrient density rather than just calories. So often in the fitness world we hear things like meal prepping kind of in the context of calculating all of your calories and your macros, which can make you feel a little bit restricted sometimes.
Well, for some people it's like super motivating, but others it's not so motivating.
Yeah.
But I think for everyone, looking at a meal and feeling like, wow, I've got like all these great nutrients, I've got my eggs that are free range, I've got great sauteed kale and ghee, it's a good feeling to know you're sort of looking after your body and you're kind of ticking off those boxes like, yes, I'm getting the healthy fats, I'm getting all the things. Okay guys, so that wraps up our 4 tips for eating healthy throughout the week and finding balance in your diet. So don't forget to let us know in the comments below which recipe you'd like to see in an upcoming video on this channel. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a thumbs up, and if you have any questions at all for us, leave them down in the comments. And finally, if you're not already subscribed to our channel and you're interested in health, beauty and lifestyle, then please subscribe, and we will see you in our next video. Bye guys!